This is video 8. I have my small piece rough cut. It's all been cut out, and I've taken off the paper and rinsed it at the sink, scrubbed it, got all the glue off of it, and I'm ready to file right now. So remember that metal edges are sharp at this stage until they are filed. So filing it really helps make this piece of raw, rough cut metal look like a piece of jewelry. Filing is one of my favorite things because you really see the gratification of the piece turning into a nice piece of jewelry. So you're going to need a ring clamp, which is this contraption here. It's got a wedge that we place on one side and the jewelry goes in the other. It doesn't matter which side, just kind of which side works with the shape of your piece. So I'm going to put mine into the rounded edge. I'm going to leave enough sticking out, but I want to have a good amount of it inside. Place the wedge into the back. Make sure it's in there securely. And then we have a variety of files. The one you'll probably use the most is called the Equalizer. It's just a flat, long paddle shape. If these seem like they're dull because they are used a lot, you can use any flat edge, so it can have a different shape to it, but as long as it has a flat edge. So this one has the pointed flat edge. This is a half round. It's flat on one side and curved on the other. And then we have some specialty files for different shapes that you might be filing. This is more cylindrical. But we're going to start with one of our flat-sided files. And what we don't want to do is you don't want to be an air filer. So you don't want to just hold it and try to file, because you really are pushing hard and this hand isn't strong enough just to hold it in the air. So secure it somehow. So I've had people do this a lot of different ways. I like to have my table edge and lean it up against the table edge, which is just below me here. I kind of put it on my knee and then place it against the table so I have something to support. And then I'm able to really push the metal and have an anchor without my holding hand moving. I've seen people hold it between their knees. I've seen people put it at their chest and file here. So just anchor this holding hand somewhere. Once you have your anchor, the first thing you do is called equalizing. And you're going to take these rough cut edges, and we're just trying to make it all smoothed out. So we've got all these like divots and dents from where the saw has cut unevenly, and we're going to try to make this one smooth, shiny surface. You could go ahead and just take one little stroke at a time if you need to, but another way to do that is just sort of angle across as you push the file away from you, and then you're covering more surface area as you go. This is especially nice when you have a nice flat, straight piece. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this equalized, and instant gratification. I can see the shininess happening. I can see it starting to smooth out, and I am pushing rather hard when I equalize. And I'm just being really precise about getting all of the little dents and divots out. Once I see, and I'm only going to do this little teeny tiny section, once I see a continuously smooth, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the video, once I see a continuously smooth area with no nicks or scratches in it, and it's all sort of using the light, it's all one consistent shine, then I know that I've equalized. Take your time. Be really picky about filing. This is what makes your piece look like jewelry and not junk. And once I get that all done, I know that I'm ready to move on. So you could equalize the whole piece around the outside and then move on to the next step, which is rounding. So right now I've got a nice flat edge, but the top and bottom of those edges are really sharp. So I want to let a little bit more stick out, and still using my same file, my flat edge file, I'm going to lighten up my touch, and then I'm just going to slowly come up and over the edge. So I'm not grinding as hard as I was. If you do, you end up grinding into a knife point. I'm just taking off any of the little straggly pieces of shrapnel that sort of get filed down, and I'm rounding out that edge. just a little, really lightly. So equalizing, you push hard, and rounding, you just have a light feathery touch. And I'm feeling it after every few strokes because I really want this. This is where it starts to feel like a rounded off piece of jewelry. Once I feel that there's no little snags on one side, I'm going to flip it to the other side, and I'm going to round to the other side of the metal too. And the file really only works in one direction. It works as you push away from it. The way that the teeth are working on here, if you're pushing back and forth like this, it's not really doing anything on the back stroke, not much. It's okay if you go back and forth when you equalize, but just know that it's not doing much. Going side to side like this, not doing anything either. So make sure it's a pushing forward, and in this case up and over, when you're filing. And that goes for equalizing or rounding. It's a pushing forward. So when you know you have a nice piece when you see that smooth, shiny edge, and when you feel it, it feels smooth and not rough. There's no snags grabbing my skin, and it should feel like a smooth river rock almost. When you get the whole outside done, which I have a lot more work to do on this one, then we're going to want to file the inside pieces if we can. If your cutouts are so tiny that you can't get a file in there, well then you can't get a file in there. But a lot of these I can get a file in. So I'm going to allow myself to access some of these inside holes, and since I have a lot of curves, I'm going to take a file that has a rounded edge or even a totally cylindrical file. And the first thing I do, still supporting anchoring my hand, I'm going to take the rounded edge to face this curve, and I'm going to equalize. So I'm just pushing through and kind of rocking as I go. And I'm looking to see, again, that smooth, shiny edge. I'm going to switch files here because I have a little bit more curvy section. So you use the shape of file that fits your piece. Once you get, and I'm just going to do this a little bit, once you get that smooth, shiny edge, then you are going to try to round it. If it's too small to round it, you just can't get in, then you don't. Now, you will want to use a file probably that has a point or that's narrower at the end, because you're going to try to get in here. I'll try to show you from this end. And you may not be able to come up and over like you did before. It might just be like just a little tiny light angled filing. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. Take my rounded edge and just a real light on one side and really lightly on the other side. And again, I just want to feel to see if I'm smoothing that out. So filing a piece this size might take me a whole class period. It might take me more than a whole class period to do it really well. So just remember, you equalize first, which is getting it nice and smoothed on the inside and outside, and you're using a flat edge most of the time for equalizing, unless you have curves. Then you would switch to a piece that fits the curve. Once you get it all equalized, you round it, and you lighten up your touch when you round so that you're coming up and over with a really light touch. This whole entire piece will need to be filed before the next step. So when I finish filing it, we'll see a much more finished piece. It'll still be black and ugly on the surface, but the edges will be nice and smooth to the touch. So when I grade these, when I look at these, I'm not only looking at how well crafted they are, how well filed they are, but I'm also going to feel it and see, does it feel like a nice smooth piece. So keep that in mind. Make sure you check it yourself. And the next video, we'll talk about sanding.